You know those places that just hum with history, the kind where you feel like the walls themselves have a story to whisper? That's York Art Gallery for me.
Definitely.
Tourists wander in, locals escape for a bit of peace, but honestly, every single piece there has, well, a pretty wild tale behind it.
Absolutely.
And guess what we're doing today? We're not just glancing, we're diving deep. And before we jump in, if you like what you hear today, check out Alistair's book, York Local Knowledge Must-Do Top 10s and the Vouchers to Get Them for Less. It's on iBooks and Google Books. Great tips in there.
Yeah, it's a good one. And look, forget the casual stroll past the paintings today. This deep dive is going to unearth the surprisingly dramatic origin of this York gem.
Ooh, dramatic.
We'll have a bit of a giggle at 10 must-see artworks, maybe, and even give you the lowdown on how to make the most of your own visit.
Sounds good.
We've dug through the archives, the art histories, basically all the good stuff.
Great, let's get the show on the road then. York Art Gallery, it's not like it just, popped up overnight, fully formed.
Not at all.
Nope, it's got a proper, how I got my groove back story. It turns out it all kicked off with the Second Yorkshire Fine Art and Industrial Exhibition of 1879.
That sounds grand, doesn't it? But what's fascinating is this wasn't their first rodeo.
No.
Back in 1866, they held a first exhibition
Yeah.
in the grounds of Bootham Asylum, interestingly enough.
Bootham Asylum.
And get this, it was a smash hit, pulled in over 400,000 people.
400,000. Wow, that's huge for back then.
Isn't it? More than the population of Iceland today. And crucially, it actually raked in a profit.
A profit from an art exhibition.
I know. Which, isn't something you hear often. This early success really shows the sort of entrepreneurial spirit and, I guess, the cultural hunger in York at the time.
So a profit from art.
Now,
Okay, here's where it gets juicy. The organizers, clearly a savvy bunch, thought, hang on, let's use this cash to build something permanent.
smart move. And that's where our architect, Edward Taylor, enters the scene.
Oh, Mr. Taylor.
Now, Edward had, let's just say, a flexible design brief.
Flexible.
Well, one minute it was meant to be Elizabethan elegance. The next it was Italian inspiration.
And the final building was.
Well, it was built. Kind of its own thing. Think of it as architectural Eurovision, maybe not quite what anyone fully expected.
Huh. I like that. It shows how, even big plans need some wiggle room.
Exactly. And it shows how that initial community enthusiasm, that profit, really laid the groundwork. They didn't just blow the money. They invested it back into something lasting, a real commitment.
Absolutely. So, May 7th, 1879, the doors swing open. Where was it originally?
In Bear Park's garden, which was part of the old St. Mary's Abbey grounds. It's where Exhibition Square is now.
Ah, right in the thick of it.
Yep. And to make way for it, they had to knock down a house and a pub called the Bird in Hand Hotel.
They knocked down a pub. Sacrilege. Talk about a tough choice for the locals back then.
Imagine, the original layout was pretty ambitious too. You had your grand entrance hall, a central hall, north and south galleries.
Sounds impressive.
And the star attraction upstairs, the Grand Picture Saloon. You can almost picture the Victorians milling about.
Whispering about artistic merit. Or maybe just looking for the tea room.
Probably both. Now here's where the champagne budget met the lemonade reality.
Ah, the money bit.
That grand classical facade they planned with 18 stone figures and fancy carvings.
Yeah.
Didn't quite happen. Finances,
Always the way. So what did they get instead?
Instead, we got two rather dramatic tiled panels.
Mm-hmm.
One of Leonardo expiring artistically,
As you do.
and Michelangelo showing off his Moses. Plus, 4 ceramic roundels, little portraits of local York artists.
Who were they?
William Etty the painter, John Carr the architect, John Kimmage the musician, and John Flaxman the sculptor. Less imposing than stone statues, maybe, but definitely more. White, clean.
Resourceful. Even the budget cuts celebrated local talent, though.
That's a good point. It still served the purpose. And the surprises don't stop there. Behind the main building, they basically slapped up this enormous temporary exhibition hall.
Temporary. How big are we talking?
Huge, 200 feet long, 90 feet wide, and the roof was over 60 feet high. It even had a massive organ inside.
An organ in a temporary hall. Why?
Just in case the art wasn't, moving enough. The truly bonkers thing is, this temporary shed hung around until 1909.
No way.
And wasn't even fully demolished until World War II. Some temporary structure, eh?
Decades. That's amazing.
Oh, and did I mention the refreshment areas? And a large cellar specifically for liquor?
Okay, now they're talking. Clearly understood the essentials of a cultural day out.
They knew their audience. That longevity, though, it shows how useful it became, adapting beyond just that first exhibition. Sometimes the things that just work are the best solutions.
True, so they had these temporary shows, but the goal was always a proper permanent collection, right?
Exactly. And that got a massive boost early on from a York collector, John Burton. He left them over 100 19th century paintings.
Wow,
Very. Plus, some early loan exhibitions helped fill the space. Then, in 1888, things shifted a bit. The North Galleries were rented out to the York School of Art.
Ah, so it became an educational space, too.
Yep, they officially moved in by 1890. Later, in 1905, they even added another story to that wing, and much later, from 1977 to 2012, that same bit housed the city archives.
Talk about a multi-purpose building really getting their money's worth.
Definitely shows its civic importance beyond just art. Then, in 1892, the city council stepped in and bought the buildings and the collection outright.
Made it properly official.
And in 1911, they had a huge show dedicated to York's own William Etty, the painter we mentioned from the Roundels.
Right.
And they stuck a statue of him outside. You can't miss it. He's looking rather pleased with his artistic legacy.
A local hero celebrated. Nice touch.
Things then ticked along fairly quietly, collection-wise, until World War II. Although, a key addition was in 1931, Dr. William Arthur Evelyn's collection of York prints, drawings, watercolors, loads of local views.
Ah, fantastic historical stuff.
But then the war came. The building was requisitioned for military use.
Oh, dear.
And sadly suffered bomb damage during the Baedeker Blitz in 1942.
That must have been devastating. A real threat to the art.
Absolutely. Which makes the post-war recovery even more impressive. Under a director called Hans Hess, the gallery really had a revival.
How so?
Well, he made some great acquisitions, helped by the York Art Collection Society, later the Friends of the Gallery and the National Art Collections Fund.
Team effort.
Definitely. And then the real game changer in 1955, a huge donation from F.D. Lycett Green. Over 100 old master paintings from Europe.
100. Wow. That must have really broadened the collection.
Massively.
Yeah.
But suddenly it wasn't just strong in British art, especially late 19th, early 20th century stuff and some French pieces.
Yeah.
It had this whole new international dimension. Visionary directors like Hess really shaped these places.
You can see that, and the generosity kept coming.
It did. 1963, Eric Milner White gifted his absolutely stonking collection of studio pottery.
Stonking? How many?
Over 5,000 pieces.
5,000. Okay. York is basically pottery paradise then.
Pretty much. But then things got a bit dramatic. In 1979, a 15th century painting was stolen.
Stolen? Oh no. Did they get it back?
Eventually. Fast forward 44 years to 2023.
44 years.
Yep. And experts spotted it listed on the Art Loss Register. Miraculously recovered, like something out of a movie.
Incredible story. Shows the value of keeping track, I guess.
Definitely. Good records and patience. The 90s and 2000s saw more nice donations and loans. W.A. Ismay, Henry Rothschild.
Steady progress.
But then, January 1999, disaster struck again. An armed robbery.
Armed robbery? Seriously?
Yeah, staff were tied up, terrifying stuff. Over 700,000 pounds worth of paintings vanished, including a Turner watercolor.
Good grief, like a proper heist.
Totally. Thankfully, the main perpetrator, a guy called Craig Townsend, was caught trying to sell the loot. Got 14 years.
Phew. Still awful for the gallery and the staff.
Very dark chapter, but highlights the risks and the dedication of the staff.
Ew.
But resilient as ever, the gallery bounced back. Had a refurbishment in 2005. And then between 2013 and 2015, a massive £8 million makeover.
8 million? What did they do?
Boosted display space by 60%, brought that north wing back into use, added a new floor to the south wing, reorganized things, made it much slicker.
Sounds like a huge upgrade.
It was. They reopened in 2015 and started charging admission again after a long time. Visitor numbers dipped a bit initially.
That's always a tricky balance, isn't it? Access versus income.
Absolutely. Then jump to 2020, they had a Harland Miller exhibition. He's a York artist. His posters became ridiculously popular.
Popular.
People were flogging them online for serious money, just for posters.
Wow, the power of witty book covers, eh?
Apparently. Also, in 2020, they acquired works from the Derbyshire School Library Service when that closed down. And speaking of money, they started charging entry again in January 2024.
Oh, again, why the change back?
Well, that period of free entry they had after the first COVID lockdown, turns out it was costing them about £200,000 a year in lost income.
Ouch. Yeah, you can see why they'd have to rethink. Financial pressures are real for these places.
For sure. And yeah, the whole COVID period was a roller coaster.
Hmm.
Closures, reopenings, linked to restrictions.
Like everywhere else.
But they did have that free entry period, which was nice while it lasted. They finally reopened properly in May 2021 with a Grayson Perry exhibition.
Ah, always popular.
Exactly. So just to sum up the collection now, over 1,000 paintings, Italian altarpieces right up to contemporary British, loads of Etty,
A local hero.
the biggest collection anywhere, plus those 5,000-plus studio pottery pieces, brilliant works on paper, especially York views, decorative arts. It's incredibly diverse.
Something for everyone, really.
Totally. Oh, and get this, start of 2025, Harland Miller donated 3 more paintings, his bad weather paintings.
Generous. So the collection keeps growing.
Constantly evolving. It's shown amazing resilience through everything.
Right then, after that whirlwind history, and seriously, I needed a map for some of that. Let's dive into the art itself.
Let's do it.
We've got York Art Gallery's official top 10 artworks list here. We're going to give you a bit of a guided tour with our own special blend of informed amusement.
Consider it your cheat sheet to sounding knowledgeable. Even if you mainly came for the gift shop, we'll give you the key bits, maybe a quirky fact.
Perfect. First up, Harland Miller, York So Good. They named it once, 2024.
Ah, yes, the big one.
And it is big, seriously large. It's one of his Pelican bad weather paintings. Miller's a York lad, isn't he?
Born and bred. He reckons the title is a nod to York being the original York, before New York. A bit tongue-in-cheek.
I like it, and he gifted this one.
Yeah, this and 2 others, early 2025. Really generous. You can see all 3 upstairs.
Isn't there another Miller exhibition on?
Yep, downstairs. Harland Miller, XXX. It runs until August 31st, 2025. Plenty of Miller to go around. His work is great. That mix of text and image, often funny but poignant too.
Yeah, it really grabs you. Okay, next. Laurence Stephen Lowry, Clifford's Tower, York, 1953.
Right, Lowry. Famous for his matchstick figures, usually in industrial scenes.
But this one's different.
A bit. It's surprisingly empty. Not many figures at all. It was actually commissioned for something called the Evelyn Award.
What was that?
A clever way to keep the gallery's collection of York views up to date. So Lowry painted Clifford's Tower.
The iconic landmark.
Contrasted with the less romantic Foss Island Power Station in the background.
Yeah.
Which isn't there anymore, thankfully.
Progress.
He even pops in a church spire, making these visual links between old and New York. It's quite subtle commentary, really, on the changing city.
Interesting. The lack of people really makes you focus on the buildings, doesn't it?
Exactly. The architecture, the history versus the industry. Time passing.
Moving on. Grayson Perry, Melanie, 2014.
Ah, Grayson Perry, the first potter to win the Turner Prize. Still sounds wonderfully odd.
Yeah. His ceramics always pack a punch, don't they? They really critique modern life.
Definitely. Melanie is a portrait from his Who Are You TV series. She was a contestant in Miss Plus Size International. It's part of a triptych called The Three Graces. Perry said they stand big and proud, challenging those narrow beauty standards.
Good for him.
He even connects them to ancient fertility figures like the Venus of Willendorf. But unlike those anonymous figures, Perry gives Melanie a real individual identity. It's proper portraiture.
It really makes you think about body image and how women are seen in art historically and now.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Using ceramics for that kind of sharp social commentary is brilliant.
Okay, completely different vibe now. Laura Knight, Early Morning in a Gypsy Camp, 1953.
Laura Knight, what an artist, a real groundbreaker.
How so?
Well, she was hugely successful as a woman in a very male-dominated art world back then. Painted theater, ballet, was even a war artist.
Wow, diverse.
And she was fascinated by marginalized communities. This painting is from her time living with and painting traveler communities from 1933 onwards.
She lived with them.
Spent time with them, yeah. She was welcomed at a camp in Ivercommon, got to know people like Beulah, the woman braiding her hair, and Gilderoy, the little boy. It's very intimate.
It feels authentic.
She famously said, although the mud of the road is their carpet, the sky is their ceiling. Gives you a sense of her empathy. It challenges stereotypes.
Definitely. A window into a world not often seen like that. Right. Brace yourselves. Frans Snyders, A Game Stall, 1625-35.
Brace yourselves is right. This painting is huge GE.
And just full of animals.
Why have been, well, mostly dead. You've got cats, dogs, cockerels, but also carcasses of birds, deer, a boar's head looking rather grumpy.
It's overwhelming. What's the deal with the peacock the boy is holding?
The peacock. Apparently a luxury food back then, but also a symbol.
Of what?
Eternal virtue, but also the fleeting nature of pleasure. A bit of memento mori amidst the abundance of dead stuff.
So enjoy the fancy bird, but remember, you're gonna die. Cheery.
Baroque, still life for you. Honestly, you could stare at this for ages just spotting things. The detail is incredible. It's that whole 17th century fascination with nature and, yeah, mortality.
Okay, from a pile of game to something more elegant. William Etty, preparing for a fancy dress ball, 1835.
Etty again, the statue guy. Famous for history paintings, often with quite a lot of artfully arranged nudity.
Right. Is this one like that?
Less so, thankfully, for the subjects. It's a double portrait of two sisters, Charlotte and Mary Williams Wynne. Their dad commissioned it.
Why?
Possibly to mark Mary's marriage, or maybe slightly awkwardly, to show off Charlotte to potential husbands. Costume balls were super fashionable then, a real status thing.
Keeping up with the Joneses, Victorian style?
Pretty much. Charlotte, the one standing, actually became quite a well-known diarist later on. Etty apparently took ages painting it.
Perfectionist.
His defense was, what is worth doing at all is worth doing well. Can't argue with that. And the critics loved it, praised their graceful attitudes and tasteful costumes. It's a real glimpse into that social world.
You can see the importance of how they presented themselves. Next, Barbara Hepworth, surgeon-waiting, 1948.
Hepworth, the brilliant sculptor. From Wakefield, not too far away.
And this is a drawing.
Yes, part of a series she did in operating theaters, drawing surgeons and nurses. This one shows two figures, really focused, harmonious. It's all about the concentration, especially in the hands and eyes.
Drawing in an operating theater must have been intense.
Apparently, she used sterilized notebooks. This was the 40s, when antiseptic procedures, gowns, hats were becoming much more standard.
Right.
And even though it's a drawing, you can totally see her sculptor's eye, the sense of form, texture. The figures feel monumental, solid, yet there's an intimacy too, maybe from the slightly scratched surface. Captures that dedication, that teamwork.
Yeah, the focus is incredible. Okay, an art history puzzle next. Domenichino or Annibale Carracci, Monsignor Agucci, 1603-1604.
Ooh, the mystery portrait. This is a really important work for the gallery. It even went on loan to the National Gallery in London during York's big refurb.
High praise. So who painted it?
Well, that's the debate. For years, attributed to Domenichino. Now, some scholars argue it might be by his master Annibale Carracci. Stylistic arguments, mostly.
Art detective work.
Exactly. What's agreed is it's Bolognese school. The sitter is Giovanni Battista Agucci. He became secretary to Pope Gregory V, so a significant figure.
And the paper he's holding.
Probably relates to his work, yeah. An art historian called Tommaso Montanari called this one of the first talking portraits.
Talking portraits?
Where the subject looks like they're just about to speak directly to you. That psychological realism creates a real connection.
Cool concept. Is it on display now?
The label says due out on display soon. So, fingers crossed. Keep an eye out. It shows how art history is always evolving, though, doesn't it?
Definitely. Right, nearly there. Penultimate picture. Paul Nash, Wintersea, 1925-37.
Paul Nash. He painted this in Dymchurch, down in Kent, while recovering after being a war artist in World War I.
Ah, that must have heavily influenced his work.
Hugely. You can see echoes of Cezanne, Cubism, maybe Surrealism too. The colors are somber, the waves are almost geometric shapes. It makes the sea look quite forbidding, powerful.
It does look bleak.
Yeah. Those repeated waveforms can be quite hypnotic, like real waves, but there's an unease. That bleakness definitely links back to his war experiences, being a soldier, injured, than an artist witnessing it all.
You mentioned the sky.
That claggy, mud-colored sky, as someone described it. Very reminiscent of his battlefield landscapes. Some people even read it as a sort of dark premonition of World War II brewing. Heavy stuff.
Powerful, though. Really conveys that mood.
Yeah.
Okay, last but definitely not least, Gwen John, young woman in a red shawl, 1917-23.
Ah, Gwen John. Such a fascinating artist. She studied at the Slade School in London, one of the first to admit women, and then in Paris.
Under Whistler, wasn't it?
That's right. This painting was done near Paris, in Meudon. And it's one of over 50 portraits she did of the same model. We don't actually know who she was.
50 paintings of the same person. Wow.
Yeah, she really explored her subjects. Her style is very quiet, restrained, with a narrow color palette. She lived a quiet life, too, and for a long time was overshadowed by her more famous brother, Augustus John.
And her lover, Rodin the sculptor.
Exactly. But now, Gwen John is hugely admired. Many people prefer her subtle, introspective work. It has this quiet power,
It really draws you in, doesn't it? That sense of inner life. Her recognition now is well-deserved.
Absolutely. A unique vision.
So there you have it, a whistle-stop tour of just 10 absolute gems from York Art Gallery's collection. Hopefully we've whetted your artistic appetite.
And now that you're armed with all this fascinating history and, a sneak peek at some highlights, how about some practical tips for planning your own artistic adventure?
Good idea. Firstly, as you probably gathered from that Snyders game stall discussion.
The one with everything, including the kitchen sink, almost.
Yeah, exactly. The collection is massive and full of detail. You could easily spend hours and still find new things. So, my tip, don't try to cram it all in at once. Maybe even plan a return visit.
Definitely good advice. Also, always check the gallery website before you go. See what temporary exhibitions are on, like that Harland Miller show we mentioned, XX.
Right, that's on until August 2025. You wouldn't want to miss that.
Exactly. Know it's current.
And if you're into pottery.
Oh, yeah. Definitely head upstairs. That British Studio Ceramics collection is incredible. Remember, over 5,000 pieces. Pottery heaven.
You could get lost up there. And keep an eye out for that mystery portrait, the Monsignor Agucci. Sounds like he might be making a reappearance soon.
Fingers crossed he's ready for his close-up. But yeah, overall, just give yourself plenty of time. Wander. Don't feel you have to tick every box. See what grabs you.
Let curiosity be your guide. I like that. And location-wise?
Super easy. It's right there in Exhibition Square. Can't miss it. Smack bang in the middle of York, near lots of other stuff.
Perfect. And just check the website for current admission fees and booking, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if you're planning ahead.
Always worth checking the latest info. And finally, don't be shy about going back to look at something again. You always spot new things second or third time around.
Like rereading a favorite book.
Exactly.
Well, phew, what a deep dive that was. We've plunged into the history, uncovered some cracking stories behind the art, hopefully given everyone a new appreciation for York Art Gallery.
It really is one of those places with something for everyone, isn't it? Tourist, local, art buff, casual visitor.
Totally. And as you wander through those galleries, maybe take a moment to think about that enduring power of art, how it connects us to York's history. What stories will you find?
What gems will catch your eye?
And look, for even more insider tips on York's must-sees, plus some handy vouchers to save a bit of cash, do grab Alistair's book. It's called York Local Knowledge Must-Do Top 10s and the Vouchers to Get Them for Less.
Available on iBooks or Google Books. It's packed with useful stuff.
And if you're planning a proper trip and need somewhere lovely to stay, check out the holiday homes at www.houseofyork.org. Great options there.
Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We hope you enjoyed exploring York Art Gallery with us.
Yeah, hope it inspires a visit. Until our next deep dive, happy art hunting, and don't forget Alistair's book, York Local Knowledge Must-Do Top 10s and the Vouchers to Get Them for Less on iBooks and Google Books, and for that perfect York base, www.houseofyork.org.